Today I lucked up by destroying the entirety of my family for only $99. Throwaway account. We've all been seeing the recent craze of DNA testing and whatnot, so my dad and I decided to jump in the bandwagon and we bought 2 from 23andMe. We got our results back a few days ago and I went into the DNA relative section to check out my matches. At the top it listed my dad as only sharing 29.2% DNA with me and being predicted to be a half-brother, which is impossible. This didn't make sense to me since we also shared a paternal haplogroup and we just look so alike, so he was definitely my father. My cousin also had taken the test a while back and she shared 24.6% with me, also predicted to be my half-sibling. We're supposed to share around 12%, being first cousins. I couldn't think of a genetic relationship that would explain what I was seeing and I had doubts in the accuracy of the percentages, so I made this post on r/23andMe, asking for help. Basically, the shared percentages are extremely accurate and highly unlikely to be false. The only realistic explanation for what I was seeing was that my uncle, my cousin's father and my dad's brother, is my father. Reality hit me in the face like a flying bag of bricks. All the dots lined up and I felt a sense of loss. I sat in my room for an hour just in shock and then I had a feeling of anger come over me. I needed some ducking answers. Without even thinking, I rushed out of my room and confronted my mother downstairs. My mom is a businesswoman and is often away on business trips. She had no idea my dad and I had done one of these tests since she was away on a trip and just got back. My mother and I never had a traditional relationship. She was always focused on her work and my dad ended up mostly raising me. My irrational self didn't even sugarcoat it. I asked her if she cheated on dad with Uncle David, name changed for OBV reasons. I have never seen the color drain from someone's face so quickly. She looked dumbfounded and then mumbled, "What kind of question is this?" Of course not. I told her everything, the test, percentages, DNA matches, all of it. Shit hit the fan. My mom fell to the ground crying, begging me not to tell dad. I left her there and went back into my room. I called my cousin, now half-sibling, and told her everything. She ended the call screaming, "Dad, now uncle," then came home and stumbled into my room asking what's wrong with mom. I told him everything too. He didn't say anything after calming down. He left the room and I locked the door. For the next few hours, I heard my entire family fall apart outside my door. My parents got into a heated argument and my grandparents rushed over to see what was going on. My aunt-in-law and David showed up shortly later and I'm pretty sure I heard my dad and David get into some physical fight. Utter chaos. I feel like ducking shut. I know it's not my fault but I can't help feeling that this is all because of me. If I had spent my ducking birthday money on something else, none of this would have happened. But another part of me is glad to know the truth. I'm too scared to go outside. I don't even know what the outcome was. The only noise I hear in the house now is the occasional sobbing coming from my mother, and I'm sure my dad is out of the house. Duck my life. I eventually left my room, called my dad and he was actually at the hospital with my grandmother. She couldn't handle the situation and had a heart attack right when she went home. I knew my mother was still in the house, but I left her there, again, without saying a word and went to the hospital. I got to the hospital, saw my grandmother, she's in stable condition, and then sat down with my dad to talk. First thing we told each other was that this situation didn't change our relationship. He was still my father and I was still his son. I got the confirmation of my dad and David getting into some altercation. Dad told me he ducked him up really hard. My mother had told my dad that she was drunk and David raped her. The only reason she had not told anyone was out of fear of destroying my father's family. Dad then suggested going to the police. She refused and then started to slightly change her story, making my dad doubt her claim. That's when David and everyone else came over. David claimed my mother was lying to save her own ass, and that they had consensual sex. As of now, my dad and I have no idea who to believe. He says his relationships with my mother and David had always been good. He's not sure what to do. David's wife is filing for divorce since this occurred after they were married. My cousin is holding up alright, although she's still pretty shaken up. My dad and I have been staying with my grandparents for the past week until we figure out what to do. Any advice would help. Thank you. Today I ducked up by buying everyone an AncestryDNA kit and ruining Christmas. Earlier this year, AncestryDNA had a sale on their kit. I thought it would be a great gift idea, so I bought 6 of them for Christmas presents. Today my family got together to exchange presents for our Christmas Eve tradition, and I gave my mom, dad, brother, and 2 sisters each a kit. As soon as everyone opened their gift at the same time, my mom started freaking out. She told us how she didn't want us taking them because they had unsafe chemicals. We explained to her how there were actually no chemicals, but we could tell she was still flustered. Later she started trying to convince us that only one of us kids need to take it since we will all have the same results and to resell extra kits to save money. Fast forward, our parents have been fighting upstairs for the past hour, and we are downstairs trying to figure out who has a different dad. TL. Doctor, I bought everyone in my family AncestryDNA kit for Christmas. My mom started freaking. Now our parents are fighting and my dad might not be my dad. Update. Thank you so much for all the love and support. My sisters, brother and I have not yet decided yet if we are going to take the test. No matter what the results are, we will still love each other, and our parents no matter what. Update 2. Christmas isn't ruined. My duck up actually turned into a Christmas miracle. Turns out my sister's father passed away shortly after she was born. A good friend of my mom's was able to help her through the darkest time in her life, and they went on to fall in love and create the rest of our family. They never told us because of how hard it was for my mom. Last night she was strong enough to share stories and photos with us for the first time, and it truly brought us even closer together as a family. This is a Christmas we will never forget. And yes, we are all excited to get our test results. Merry Christmas everyone. P.S. Sorry my mom isn't a hole. No, you're not my daddy. Do divorce lawyers run holiday specials? Love the mental image of all the kids in various states of inebriation sitting in a circle playing Guess the Bastard. Look at this guy. Look at that duck and nose. You see the rest of us with that nose. Could be the nose, could also be the fact that Jake is black. Best gift ever. A new dad for Christmas. She told us how she didn't want us taking them because they had unsafe chemicals. This adds so much to the authenticity of the story. This is exactly the kind of thing someone comes up with on the spot to try and fail, to hide something. Yeah. I did the 23andMe and all you do is spit in a tube. Not sure if Ancestry is any different. With Ancestry you inject unlabeled chemicals via syringe and then mail your feces a day later. I did this. I got both my parents a kit for Christmas last year. They are both very proud of their French and Cherokee heritage. Only, it turns out they are both half Irish and half English. My dad insisted the thing was wrong and I never got to see the results. This was the result of my wife's parents' tests as well. Her dad, who plays jazz music and has fairly dark skin, was especially hoping for some exotic ancestry. Nope, both white as saltine crackers. I think they would have been happier not knowing. I had the opposite thing happen. I did 23andMe and found out that my first cousins, who I'm not close with, they were estranged for a long time from my dad's brother, also had done 23andMe because it matched us as first cousins. I told my dad this and he was like, wait, it said that Karen is your first cousin? And I was like, yeah. And he asked to see it and then he said, I have to call my brother. Turned out that my uncle has been convinced for decades that his ex-wife had an affair and his youngest daughter, Karen, wasn't really his. Turns out she has been this whole time. People who were just banging away in the 80s and 90s didn't see this one coming. Damn. Hahaha, sorry, not funny, but a similar thing happened with me. My mom bought both of my sister's DNA kits and when I inquired as to why I was left out she told me my results would be the same as theirs. So I asked why she bothered getting them both the kits and she got dead serious and told me I needed to stop. Everyone hears about this kind of shit but you never expect it to happen to you. A guy found me on 23andMe and it turned out we had 12.5% DNA in common, making us close cousins. But then I found out he was born in the 50s, which makes cousinship impossible. It turns out he's my half uncle. And in the process of figuring out how the hell he eluded the family, it turned out that the guy we thought was my great uncle was actually my uncle. My grandma hid the fact that her very younger brother was actually her kid. And he was this guy's brother. Those kinds of bombshells can completely rewrite your family tree. It's wild. My father also used the AncestryDNA kit. He didn't find anything unusual in the results, exactly what he thought it would be. But something weird did happen after he checked the box to allow close matches to contact him. Well, soon after he gets contacted by a woman he had never met who lives over 1,000 miles away from him, saying that Ancestry told her that the two of them are cousins. Genealogical records show no relation, but she told my dad that of her 3 siblings, only one of them had the expected ancestry report. Their parents were no longer living, so no one to ask. Anyway, upon further conversation, my dad finds out that when this woman was born, she lived in the same city as most of my dad's family. So he asks her to send him a picture, and he swears it's Uncle Louis in a wig. This actually just happened to some non-direct relatives of mine, essentially my uncles-in-laws. His brother-in-law and the wife have 3 kids who all did 23andMe, and found out the oldest girl is not his daughter, but some other guy that his wife slept with early on in their marriage, got pregnant and thought she'd be able to hide it forever. The daughter's like 32 now, so they didn't have at-home DNA tests back then and she probably never foresaw that being a thing. Long story short, we kind of always knew because she didn't look like anyone else in that family, but when they found out they all flipped on their mom about it and now the parents are getting divorced. Merry ducking Christmas. Shut. Now I'm remembering how my mom didn't want me to get a 23andMe kit last Christmas. Her reasoning was that it was a waste of $99 and I could just average the results from her and my father's exams. My mom has always said that her dad was 50% Cherokee. I took the test last year and it said I was 0% Native American. My dad started to insist that the tests are wrong and everything is made up. I'm now convinced I'm adopted. Once took a DNA test that said I had a higher chance of developing Alzheimer's disease. Been trying to forget about ever since. You'll forget soon enough. My ex had blood type AB. She told me her dad had blood type O+. I told her that didn't work. Her mom admitted that her dad wasn't her dad. Duck my birthday right up. Similar thing happened to a kid in my school. Middle school science class. They start talking about blood types. A kid asks how he has this blood type while his parents have these. I can't remember them exactly, but they didn't match. Science teacher, without thinking, says that means your daddy isn't really your daddy. Turns out he was very correct. My sister and I both took tests a while ago. My parents just got their results in last week. My mom sighed big time when my dad matched with my sister. She cheated on him just before she got pregnant. I was at an eclipse party and met a guy with a very interesting 23andMe story. He was adopted and had taken the test a couple of years ago. To his surprise, he had something like 10 half-siblings from his father's side, from all over the country. After contacting them, he learned that his bio father was a serial rapist that had never been caught.